Well, how about that? Good evening, everybody. Hello, and welcome to Markup Monday on a Tuesday. Welcome to Markup Monday on a Tuesday. Hope you guys are doing well. I'm good. I am good. I'll be honest with you. I am tired, but I'm good. And I'm so, I'm grateful. I'm in the middle of an exhale. The last 8 weeks have been bananas. Like nonstop. So when I got home last night, I was excited to be here. Slept in my own bed last night. I'm here for like 10 days uninterrupted. It's really nice. So that's that. I'm so sorry that I could not be on last night. Getting back here was work. So I was due back Sunday night. I was a speaker at a church in Topeka on Sunday, and then I had a meeting Sunday evening, and I was due out at 6:40, and maybe 2 hours before the flight, I got a notification on my phone that the flight had been canceled, and I was like, no. So I went ahead and booked for to move it until Monday evening. And then my Monday flight was delayed. It was delayed 3 times. In fact, when I was driving to the airport for the delayed flight, I got another 45-minute delay. So this is where I have to tell the truth. I decided that I was going to be smarter than the system, right? And so since that flight was delayed to 8:40 and the last flight was at 9:20, I was like, you know what? They keep delaying this flight. You're going to fool around, and the 9:20 flight is going to go out before the 6:40 flight, now 8:45. So I changed to the 9:20 flight. I went back home with my mom. Y'all, the 9:20 flight, by the time I got home, was delayed to 11:35. So I didn't leave Kansas City last night till 11:35. Got home at 1 o'clock this morning. So when I tell you, it's just, yeah, life is lifing over here, but it's all good. So I'm grateful to be here. I'm grateful to be with you all. And I know I'm talking a lot tonight, but I'm happy to see y'all. So thank those of you who are on. Thank you, Sister Monica. You know the feeling. Yeah, it was crazy. At least I was at home with my mom, right? So I'm always like grateful that, I'm not sitting in an airport. I'm not without. I don't have to go get a hotel room. So that was really nice. So I'm glad to be here. I've really missed you all. Like I said, the last few weeks have been busy. So I think 2 weeks ago, I was at the Women's Convention for the Church of God in Christ. And then last week, I was doing the business of the college. So I was out of pocket. So I love you all for hanging in here with me. If you're a newbie here, hey, I'm Waynell. Welcome to Markup Monday. I try really hard to be here on Mondays, but we're having Markup Monday on a Tuesday. So tonight, although I'm not going to teach the lesson tonight. That's not what this is. We're going to read through the passage together. And I have my markup document open, and I just need you all to jump in here and participate with me. We're going to look at, this is an observation of the text. And so whenever you're doing your Bible studies, I want to encourage you as students of the word, as teachers of the word, that when you engage with any kind of Bible passage, don't run immediately to the commentary to see what somebody else said about it, but literally acclimate yourself to learn to understand the Bible. But that starts with just reading it and making an observation. So what do you see? What do you feel? What do you think about? What does it remind you of? What do you want to know more about? Hey, Sister Jeanette, nope, you did not miss Kojic. I'll be back on at 9 o'clock. So a little different schedule tonight. I had small group with my church at 7. And now I'm hopping on to try to make up for last night. So I'll be back on. Actually, as soon as I get done here, I may not even wait for 9 o'clock. When I'm done here, I'm going to flip over to the next one. So if your notifications are set, you'll see me then. Love you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So again, we're not here to study the lesson together tonight. I'll definitely be back with a video, and you'll be able to download the notes. But tonight we're going to observe this text together. We're in a lesson entitled Abraham Makes an Offering. Abraham Makes an Offering. Sister Janice Jones has already given the alternate title of The Ultimate Allegiance. Thank you for that. The ultimate allegiance. So thank you for that. Let's pray, and then we've got a lot of territory to cover, but we'll go from there. Father, we thank you tonight for allowing us to come together. God, thank you for this day. Thank you for even allowing us to make it through the day, that you've been with us. You've been with us the entire day, and you've walked alongside of us, and you led us, and you've guided us, and we appreciate you. And we thank you for your constant presence in our lives. Thank you that having you in our lives makes the difference. It just makes life better knowing that we don't navigate on our own, but that we are operating inside of a divine plan that you curated for us before the foundation of the world. So thank you tonight for your love. And God, I pray that you'll be with us as we read through this word together. God, is always my prayer that we never take your word for granted or take it lightly, but that we will use every opportunity to open our hearts and our minds, our understanding, to hear what you will say unto us and what the Spirit will provoke us to do as we strive to be better disciples here in the world. Bless those who are present now and those who catch the replay. We love you. We give you glory. In Jesus' name, amen. All right. I have my She Reads Truth Bible in my lap. So this is the Christian Standard Version of the lesson. I'll be reading the King James Version. We're going to Genesis chapter 22, verses 1 through 14. And it came to pass after these things that God did tempt Abraham and said unto him, Abraham, and he said, Behold, here I am. And he said, Take now thy son, thine only son Isaac, whom thou lovest, and get thee into the land of Moriah, and offer him there for a burnt offering upon the mountains, which I will tell thee of. And Abraham rose up early in the morning and saddled his ass and took 2 of his young men with him, and Isaac his son, and clave the wood for the burnt offering, and rose up, and he went up to the place of which God had told him. Then on the 3rd day, Abraham lifted up his eyes and saw the place afar off. And Abraham said to his young men, Abide here with the ass, and I and the lad will go yonder and worship, and come again to you. And Abraham took the wood of the burnt offering and laid it upon Isaac his son, and he took the fire in his hand and a knife, and they went both of them together. And Isaac spake unto Abraham his father, and said, My father. And he said, Here am I, my son. He said, Behold the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb for a burnt offering? And Abraham said, My son, God will provide himself a lamb for a burnt offering. So they went both of them together. And they came to the place which God had told him of, and Abraham built an altar there, and laid the wood in order, and bound Isaac his son, and laid him upon the altar upon the wood. And Abraham stretched forth his hand, and took the knife to slay his son. And the angel of the Lord called unto him out of heaven, and said, Abraham, Abraham. And he said, Here I am, here am I. And he said, Lay not thine hand upon the lad, neither do thou anything unto him. For now I know that thou fearest God, seeing thou hast not withheld thy son, thine only son, from me. And Abraham lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, behind him a ram caught in a thicket by his horns. And Abraham went and took the ram and offered him up for a burnt offering in the stead of his son. And Abraham called the name of that place Jehovah Jireh, as it is said to this day, in the mount of the Lord it shall be seen. This is our reading for this week. And I forgot to ask you to please make sure you're subscribed to this channel. Also, make sure that you click the notifications bell. And since you're here hanging out, please don't forget to click that thumbs up like button. Please do that for me. All right. So again, we are going to just do an observation of the text. We're not here to preach, teach any of the lesson on tonight. None of that. We're in the book of Genesis. This is week number 3 in Genesis. So I know we always start our Bible studies with background. You should have substantive background already from our first 2 lessons. We studied about Cain and Abel. We have studied about Noah, and now we are here with Abraham. So you may find some interesting things as you continue to build out your background on Genesis. So I encourage you to dig in there. But let's go ahead and jump into the passage for tonight. I am going to divide this up into small chunks, and I need you to go ahead and start to tell me what you see, what you feel, what you think about, what it reminds you of, what you want to know more about. And it came to pass after these things that God did tempt Abraham and said unto him, Abraham, and he said, behold, here I am. And he said, take now thy son, thine only son Isaac, whom thou lovest, and get thee into the land of Moriah, and offer him there for a burnt offering upon one of the mountains which I will tell thee of. Sister Angela Frederick asked the question, how much time had passed after what things? Absolutely. When we first start off in this passage, the first thing you see is the word and, which means this is a continuation of some type of story. And it came to pass kind of as a transition that tells us we're moving on to the next thing, or some time has passed. And the question that I asked is the same thing. How much time has passed? And after what things? What has happened before? Sister Monica Moore asked the same question. So what is this phrase? It is a clear signal that there is another new beginning, if you will. How interesting, in Genesis, we see another beginning of sorts, I asked the question, what things? And I think that when you do your cast of characters, I feel like Abraham is interesting. There's a lot of his life. It's complicated, if you will. I'm not here to teach tonight, but think back to or look at his background. Look at all that's happened. Look at the birth. We're looking at Isaac here, but go back to Isaac's birth story. And just take a look. Abraham has been through a lot. And then this, I know that was kind of cheating because it's not in the passage, but just take my word for it. You don't want to just jump in here with, and it came to pass. Go figure out how we got here, and you'll know that a lot has happened here, a lot. So who is Abraham? Who is Isaac? We see these people are introduced in our text. You should be asking or making your cast of characters so you can figure out who these people are. All right. That God did tempt Abraham. So what does it mean to tempt? I kind of pause when I read that word, right? Because that feels a little bit strange, because well, maybe you don't know, but another word that you can use for tempt is test, right? And we know, like, God is not the one who, I would say, creates that temptation, right? So he's not typically the one who tempts. Therefore, that's why I substituted the word test. I think that is easier for me. So it feels like a test of some sort. And the question I have is, again, you got to go back. Spoiler alert, a lot has happened. So after everything that's gone on, why are you tempting him now, God? Like, what's that about? What is this test about now? All right. What does he do? What was he doing when God talked to him, Sister Angela? Thank you for that. Love that question. Love that. Okay, love that. And so, yeah, I feel like we're in the middle of a test when God speaks to him, as Sister Angela pointed out, and he gives him an instruction. There's an instruction here. He says, take your son, your only son, Isaac, whom you love, and offer him up. So God doesn't just take your son. It stands out to me that, like, there's layers to this thing, right? Take Isaac. Who is Isaac? He is, the promise. He is your joy. He is your miracle. And now you want him to become his offering. That's curious, right? I also observed that God calls Abraham by name. He calls him by name. So God knows who you are. I know that was cheating. That was cheating. God calls Abraham by name. Ooh, I went too far. And Abraham responds simply, here I am. Yes, Kirby Holloway, he gave specific instructions, right? Are you reading my paper? How are you reading my markup document? God gives Abraham a very specific and intense instruction. I added a word. An intense instruction to take his only son. But think about, like, I am not a parent, but I'm an auntie. I am a godmother, and I can't imagine being asked to take the one that I love to go and to sacrifice them on anybody's mountain as a burnt offering. So I'm laughing, Brother Kirby. That's hilarious. So you can continue sharing with me. Wasn't sacrificing a child illegal in the eyes of God, Sister Evelyn? I love this. I love it. Brother Kirby says, I see relationship. Yeah. Sister Linda, why my son? Absolutely. The thing that I love the most. Why that thing? I think I noted again that he calls Isaac his only son, and that should have stood out to you because It's not like there's not another son, right? Don't forget Ishmael exists. So why is Isaac called the only son? Why is this phrase "whom you love" used? I wanted to know that. And I just think it's interesting that love is mentioned in the context of sacrifice. That's the best way I can say that. That what you love, you are being asked or required to sacrifice. I also noted that so far I don't see a reaction from Abraham, right? He's been asked to do a really, really big thing. This is huge, but there's no reaction, there's no protest, there's no pause, and he doesn't even ask any questions of God right now. So Sister Janice says, yep, that's how I felt. A parallel of God with Jesus, Abraham, and Isaac. Yeah, the sacrifice of their son. Okay, I'm not going to be ice creamed on that, Sister Janice. I was just reading your comments because I felt myself about to go there. That's not what this is. Let me keep moving. So how does this make me feel? Like I feel like this passage is like, when you really sit with it, it's intense. And I know it's familiar and sometimes we can lose the intensity of a thing, but like that's a lot of tension to be asked to sacrifice the thing that you love, the promise that you've received. And again, this feeling like you're being tested. And I gotta be honest, like, God, why the test gotta be so dramatic? Like, this is a big test right here. You could have asked a whole lot. So what it reminds me of is like parents who have to face or make really, really hard decisions concerning their children. And like you, Sister Janice, it reminded me of God's sacrifice of his only son. Isaac is the only son of promise, Sister Marilyn says. And I wanted to know, Sister Marilyn, how old is this son of promise right now? I'm curious when he gets this instruction. I mean, I may not get this in my study. I'm not going to get it, but I just wonder, like, do you go home and tell your wife this? Do you go home and say, hey, about to have to make a sacrifice here? And I just noticed that, like, when I mentioned that Abraham doesn't push back, I kind of wonder why, because I'm trying not to get in trouble. Not like he hadn't pushed back before. I'll just say that. You can go back and read, but it's not like he hasn't pushed back before. All right. What exact time is early in the morning, Sister Angela? Let's find out. Y'all know Sister Angela will transition me and she moves me forward, because Abraham rose up early in the morning, verse 3 says, and saddled his ass and took 2 of his young men with him and Isaac his son, and clave the wood for the burnt offering, and rose up and went out unto the place of which God had told him. Then on the 3rd day, Abraham lifted up his eyes and saw the place afar off. And Abraham said to his young men, abide ye here with me, abide ye here with the ass, and I with the lad will go yonder and worship and come again to you. All right. So far, my observation is that, again, Abraham obeys immediately. And I have to say, like I said, that's kind of surprising, right? Because I'm not going to read this story like I already know and like somebody already wrote a song, work it out. I'm not going to read it like that. I'm going to read it in the reality of, if someone asked me to sacrifice something to that magnitude, what would I honestly be thinking or feeling? And so when I look at his obedience, on some level, it's a little bit surprising, right? That there is no delay, that there is no stalling or no talking. Like, he just obeys. He just obeys. And the text tells us that he rises early. Thank you so much, Sister Angela. So what time is early exactly? And he not only gets up early, but he prepares, right? We see him saddling the ass and identifying the young men who will go with him, and Isaac himself. And then he cuts the wood. Check it. Abraham cuts the wood. Did I read that correctly? Cut the wood. Clave the wood. That's that King Jamesy word. I've got my other Bible here, but he cuts the wood himself. He cuts the wood himself. And so I just wonder, like, what does like every swing of that axe feel like? I'm looking at it in the other translation here. So Abraham got up early in the morning, saddled his donkey, and took with him 2 of his young men and his son Isaac, he split wood for a burnt offering and set out to go to the place that God himself had told him about. So yeah, I'm thinking like with every hit of the wood, what is that like to know that you are chopping the wood that you would use to sacrifice your own son? All right. How far does he have to travel, Sister Monica? Good question. I love it. Sister Janice says this shows complete trust in God's plan. I do believe that. It's a 3-day journey. I know that from the text because it's on the third day that he actually sees the place. Obedience is better than sacrifice, Sister Linda says. I see that. I also observed that Abraham tells the servants to stay. Check it. He says, we will go and we gonna come back. But you've been told you're gonna go and sacrifice your son. I see you, Sister Janice, and your complete trust in God, because we are gonna go and we will be back. And he has the men to say there. So what made him so confident that he didn't say I'll be back by myself. He said that we will be back. I wonder what made him so confident. I asked the question, will we will worship and we will come back? Was that faith or was he hiding the truth? I gotta be honest, like easy to kick in and say, oh, I see his faith and all that. I still feel like this must feel like heavy, right? Like this father has to feel some sense of dread, and here's the thing, like when I read a passage now, I seriously believe like it's possible for two things to be true at the same time. Like I think it is, I'm not teaching, this is how I feel. I have to imagine that it felt some kind of way, heavy, dreadful, for him to even have to make this type of preparation to be obedient, right? To be willing to go through with it. And at the same time, because of his words, I don't think that means he's not a man of faith. I really don't. But even as we look at them moving, he gives the men instruction, but the text just tells us that they go. Like there's a silence even with Abraham and Isaac as they go up. I feel like 3 days, again, these are just feelings. 3 days is a long time. Like think about the extremity of the instruction that he's been given. 3 days is a long time to have to walk with what you have to do next. Being obedient, yeah, Brother Kirby, being obedient can make us nervous. I totally believe that. And he had faith in the prior promises. I love that. Sister Angela, I love that. Why didn't he allow the young men to go up with him and Isaac? I'm laughing at myself because I just said Abraham is way too calm for me. Is he too calm, or is this just a man of faith that I will never understand? But he's way calm. Yeah. Oh, Brother Kirby, good question there. I wonder how the other two men felt. I wonder if they even knew what was going on. I wonder if they even knew, because so far Abraham has an announcement, but everybody else is just following along. Let's see what else I said here. So I was just kind of reflecting on how this statement, like I and the lad, we're going to go and we will be back, that kind of stands out for me because it makes me think about how often we make faith statements in the middle of our tough stuff. And so that's what I felt like in the middle of something that's really hard, his words don't betray what he believes about God. I wonder if Isaac knew what was happening. And I wrote down a question, but as I'm talking out loud right now, of course, the answer is yes. Like I asked, did Abraham really expect God to intervene? And I'm going to go with the yes, because he said, we'll be back. We'll be back. We can't always release what's been told to us in full. That is so, so true. That is so, so true, Brother Kirby, for sure. Let me keep going. And Abraham took the wood of the burnt offering and laid it upon Isaac, his son. And he took the fire in his hand and a knife, and they went both of them together. And Isaac spake unto Abraham his father and said, my father. And he said, here am I, my son. And he said, behold the fire and the wood. Where is the lamb for a burnt offering? And Abraham said, my son, God will provide himself a lamb for a burnt offering. So they went both of them together. Why didn't he allow the young men to be a part of the worship experience, Sister Angela? And I love that you call it a worship experience, right? That's kind of a layered statement too. Y'all check out the comments because there's some good stuff happening in there. Sister Janice says, Abraham has been teaching his son the way of God by giving sacrifices to God. And that is so true, right? Because Isaac clearly recognizes the pattern. For him to be able to ask questions, it means that he has taught his son what sacrificing, what giving looks like, what honoring God looks like. And that's a whole lesson in itself. And I hope you'll spend some time there if you're teaching. And even if you're a parent who's reading like that, you think about the importance of training your children to know how and what to do in worship. So Abraham lays the wood on Isaac and carries fire and the knife himself. I see all those things. And hold on here. Let's see here. There we go. I needed to let somebody know we're on live. I noted that Isaac finally speaks. Like up to this point, Isaac hasn't really, Sister Monica, the conversation between father in all caps, I love that, and son. And yes, Sister Janice, how is he feeling, right? As he's going through these actions, his father is speaking. Are his father's words, is this becoming comforting at all? Does he trust the father as he goes through? I wonder that myself. Does he just trust the father? All right. So Isaac asked a question, where is the lamb? And I'm gonna tell you, like that just kind of breaks me a little bit. Like, Daddy, like, I see the wood, I see the fire, but what we doing? Where's the lamb? So that kind of, I don't know, kind of breaks me a little bit. Abraham answers him, and he says that God is going to provide himself a lamb. And I just wondered if that question is like a prophetic statement, or does that feel like he's deflecting in any way, or is that something that he really believes, right? I also note that Isaac is carrying the wood, and in a way I feel like that's symbolic, right? A son carrying wood. That feels, Sister Janice already told us, that's feeling very New Testament-ish, where there is a father who is willing to make a sacrifice and a son who is carrying wood. But it's interesting, right? Because at the point that Isaac is carrying this wood, he doesn't know he's part of the sacrificial plan. He has no idea. He's just being obedient. They had a long walk and time talking and conversing. Hi, Sister Faye McLean. They had a long time for talking and conversing. Yes, they did. Yes, they did. I feel like Abraham's answer, it feels faith-filled or faithful, but it's also really mysterious, right? He doesn't lie, but he doesn't give Isaac the entire story. God is going to provide himself. It's like, wait, what do you mean he's going to provide himself a lamb for a burnt offering? So again, God is going to do it. That's the faithful part. But what do you mean? It's normally how we bring the sacrifice up. So again, a little bit mysterious at the same time. Jesus knew God's plan, but Isaac, doesn't know the plan here at all, Sister Janice. He does not. And could Abraham have believed in the resurrection? Brother Kirby, listen, keep on, and you're going to be the Markup Monday leader when I'm out again in the future. I like it. This is good. You know what? In all seriousness, let me say this. I am, as a leader, this has nothing to do with the lesson, I'm just sharing, but as a leader, I am becoming aware and almost convicted in some ways, especially in like my local church assignment. I am working hard to make sure that I don't create systems that if I am out, they fall to the ground. So some of y'all just go on and email me and say, hey, Wade, when you are at the women's convention or AIM or things like that, I got you on Monday night. Go ahead, because I'm gonna take you up on that. I sure am. Okay, let me keep going. So I still feel like my feelings as I read this passage are still like tension, right? I don't know about you, but like Isaac seems to trust his father, and yet he got questions, right? So again, as you look at I think about even today, like how young people process the world. I think they believe. I'm not teaching. I'm not. It's how I feel. I think on some level they believe, but it doesn't stop them from having questions. And so that was the feeling I had. And I felt like Isaac's question, even though it was innocent, Sister Janice, and I don't know that he was aware, like his questions are deep. And so again, I think there is space for questions from young people. That's kind of how that made me feel. Isaac's answer, again, I said it was comforting but cryptic. And it's sort of like reminds me that there is a shift with children. They are not always these little trusting, just take everything that you say, don't ask any questions children. So this seems to be at a point where Isaac is, not a little bitty child. He's old enough to notice when a pattern is different. He's old enough to notice. So I did see that there. Yeah, but there's still an innocence about him, Sister Faye. I will agree with you on that. I already said this reminds me of Jesus carrying the cross. It also makes me think about like times that I have had to trust without knowing what was coming next. Let's see. I'm curious, was Isaac suspicious or was he trusting? I think that's all I asked. Yeah, how much did Isaac understand? Why didn't Isaac try to overpower his father? Sister Angela, we're moving. And they came to the place which God had told him of, and Abraham built an altar there and laid the wood in order and bound Isaac his son and laid him on the altar upon the wood. And Abraham stretched forth his hand, and he took the knife to slay his son. And the angel of the Lord called unto him out of heaven and said, Abraham, Abraham. And he said, Here am I. And he said, Lay not thine hand upon the lad, neither do thou anything unto him. For now I know thou fearest God, seeing that thou hast not withheld thy son, thine only son, from me. Sister Angela, I am with you. So they get there. Before I ask the question that you asked, they get there. And we have walked up here. We have been talking as we walk. I don't see a sacrifice anywhere. They get there, and the father, the text tells us that Abraham arranges builds the altar. I take time. I watch you take time. Time happens here because he builds an altar, and he doesn't just throw the wood on there. The text says he arranges the wood. So you have taken the time to build an altar, arrange the wood, and then here's where Sister Angela's question comes in. You bound up Isaac. Now, we've already decided that he's big enough to walk. He's big enough to talk. He's big enough to process. He's strong enough to carry wood on the walk. So you mean to tell me that a child, a lad this big, submitted to being the sacrifice? That's a question mark right there. Not going any further. Did he literally trust his daddy with his life, Brother Kirby asked? And why didn't Isaac try to overpower his father? And I said it this way, Sister Angela. I said, he binds Isaac. And I'm like, wait, how did Isaac respond to that? Did he fight? Did he cry? I mean, do you just stand there quietly while you get bound up and laid on an altar? You already know what happens on this wood. You already know we got the fire. You know what it is. And the text is silent, but I feel like the silence is so loud in this passage. It is so loud. Abraham is moving slow, waiting on God to provide the lamb, Sister Janice says. And nope, Brother Kirby, Isaac is seeing no sacrifice at all. And now, since God hates murder, yet he allowed his one and only son to die on the cross for us. That is definitely worth digging into and finding out where you stand with that, Sister Faye. Hey, Brother Robert. Hello to you. Glad you're joining in. So now with Isaac bound on this altar, on the carefully arranged wood, now he reaches for the knife. I wonder if Abraham, I do too, Brother Kirby. Thank you for that question. What are the emotions as this man has to bind up? We're saying it like he's, this is not I'm thinking the Bugs Bunny and Tweety show, but I'm thinking remember how Wile E. Coyote was always pursuing the road runner, would try to tie the. It's not like that, right? These are people. This is a father who is believing that he will sacrifice his son, and he has the knife. He's willing to go all the way. The text says he reaches for the knife, and then And I actually wrote out the words and then. That was what one translation said. Verse 11 in the King James says, Abraham stretched forth his hand and took the knife to slay his son and the angel of the Lord. So whether you have and then or and the angel of the Lord calls out to him, and that's when everything sort of stops. And like, I don't know about you, but this is the first time I kind of exhale in this scripture, right? Because up to this point, this has been a lot. Like, I'm not going to just read through this like a kid story. This is a lot, right? And God acknowledges Abraham's fear of him, that he was willing to, not withhold anything from him, even his only son. Because it's told as if men, oh, that is so good, Brother Kirby. You're right. This story is told as if men have no emotions, and men absolutely have emotions. And here's the thing, like when you see this refrain of his only son, you made me think about something. And I know we're in Markup Monday, but or should I save that story for my teaching? So my brother is an only boy. My nephew he has one son that carries our last name. So when I look at things that have happened, like I remember when we were very young and my brother had seizures, and they called one day and we went to the preschool, and I remember getting there and the ambulance being on the outside and watching my parents with bated breath as their only son was going through medical distress. Then fast forward, 30 years later, I was with my brother actually when my nephew had a seizure in the car. Like, they were about the same age. It was crazy. But again, his only son carrying the name, his only son. And I just remember my brother holding his son. I remember us driving like crazy to Children's Mercy Hospital. I remember him throwing the car in park and literally getting Junior and carrying his limp body in. And as he drove, literally just tears streaming. He couldn't drive fast enough. And I remember the tears down his face. So like, that's why I'm with you. Like, I can't read this story like these aren't real people, because I know I've seen what it looks like when a father is distressed like that over a son, over the promise. So let me stop there, because that's not Markup Monday like of me. I'm sorry, Brother Kirby. You made me tell my story because it did remind me of that. Why a ram and not any other animal, Sister Angela? Yeah, thank you for that, Sister Janice. Yep. Oh, Men's Mental Health Month. Thank you for that, for noting that. I didn't realize that was June. Thank you for that. God doesn't come when we want him, but he's always on time. Absolutely. And I wonder, Brother Kirby, since we're talking about emotions, what is the exhale for Isaac? Because now I let you tied me up, and here I am thinking it's over. I'm watching this knife over my head. What is his exhale? What is that like for him? What does it feel like in both of those moments? Like, I'm wondering, do his knees buckle at this point? Do Abraham's knees buckle? I don't know. And I also asked the question, is this really about obedience, or is this about surrender? And I kind of feel like they're two different things. So I want to wrestle with that. I just literally noted that Abraham follows through into the last possible moment. And then I underline this phrase, now I know. Now I know. Because I told you in the beginning, like, I felt like this was a test. And now here are the results. Now I know. And to me, that seems like something has been proven or revealed about Abraham. And the text tells us that. So, I'm just looking at my notes to see if there's anything that I haven't mentioned. Who was that said that? Because I feel like you're looking at my paper too, Sister Teresa. You're looking at my paper, because I said this reminds me of those moments where God seems late but shows up just in time. So yeah, you're right. He may not come when we want him, but he's always in the absolute right time. So, I won't find out, but was Isaac traumatized? Was Abraham traumatized? What did the servants think when they returned? And, did God need to see Abraham to know his heart? Why was it necessary for God to see action out of Abraham to know his heart? What is Jehovah Jireh, Sister Monica asked? So is the knowing for God or is it for Abraham? I love your questions. I've seen my dad show the emotions because I've struggled. Oh, yep. See there? Yeah, it's hard. That's hard. That is so hard. And Abraham lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, behind him a ram caught up in a thicket by his horns. And Abraham went and took the ram off and offered him up a burnt offering in the stead of his son. And Abraham called the name of the place Jehovah Jireh, as it is said to this day, in the mount of the Lord it shall be seen. And Brother Kirby, we speak the word of healing over you, things that you have struggled with, that they will not be your issue anymore. So my observation is that Abraham, he sees the ram. He said God was going to provide, and his faith-filled words now match his reality, because he sees a ram caught in a bush, and he's able now to offer it instead of his son. The Sister Monica, he names the place Jehovah Jireh. What does that mean? I guess I put it in my notes, but it doesn't tell us what it means. So we need to figure out what Jehovah Jireh means. Absolutely. And notice the ands in this story. Like this is a moving story. There's a lot. Circle the number of times. Every verse almost begins with and this happened, and this happened, and this happened. So just a continuation, and God is still in the middle of all of it. The replacement, I notice, came after his obedience, right? The ram, the substitute, came after his obedience. That's just an observation. I don't know where we'll wrestle with that. Abraham doesn't just say God provided. He literally names the place there as a statement of God's character. And like, I think about how in our toughest times, like we learn things about God, and he learned in that place that God did provide. I don't know how Abraham felt, but by the time I get to this point in the story, like I feel gratitude. I'm grateful for Isaac's life. I feel relieved that God provided, but I'm also like, it makes me feel a sense of awe for how provision comes in a way that no one saw coming, right? I think this becomes familiar because it's a story that we've read a lot, or maybe you've seen before, but the first time you heard this story, even if it was in your children's Bible, you didn't see the ram coming. And so I think that is kind of one of the things that I see here, that sometimes provision, you don't see how it's coming. I feel like there's something important about naming the places that God allows us to experience. And this kind of reminds me of how just God shows up in hard places. Like this was a hard thing, and God showed up in hard spaces. And it made me kind of think about like the times that I have felt that I was all the way at the edge before help came. And there have been times that I have felt like I was at the edge before help came. God is not like man that he should lie. That's good, Brother Kirby. Abraham looked up. Oh, I need to add that because I feel like that's offering worthy right there, right? He looked up. He looked up, and God is always working, Sister Faye says. So why a ram and not a lamb? Is this the first substitutionary sacrifice that we see in Scripture? And again, this last one, this is how my mind is wired. Did Isaac remember this day for the rest of his life? And do you tell your kids about this? Let me tell you about the day my father took me up on the mountain and tied me up. I mean, like, do you tell your kids about this, right? Or how would he tell his children about that? So that's how I kind of sorted through the markup. I have enjoyed y'all tonight. Y'all were on fire. That's what I'm talking about right there. I appreciate you. I'm not going to hold you. In fact, I'm going to start the Team Kojic piece early so that somebody, I am somebody, can go to bed tonight. Ain't gonna be no 3:00 tonight. Because, when I got home, I got that little cat nap on the plane. So when I got home, who wasn't sleepy was me. There ever been a 3:13 before I went to sleep this morning? Oh, but on tonight, That's not happening. Listen, I love y'all. I got to get out of here. I will definitely see you later this week. I'll have notes up for you in the next day or so. You can start pulling those things down. And then I'll see you for the lesson review. Love you and talk to you soon. Be well. Bye.